Hey guys. Yes, in my pajamas. This is as good as it is getting today. So, chapter 4. This chapter will give you a better understanding of what school is like for Honor and how people at school treat her, interact with her, basically her whole entire existence at school.
Chapter 4. As the days grew hotter, Honor and her parents slept downstairs because the upstairs bedrooms felt like ovens. The cooling unit cost 400 points at the central store, and the Greenspoons could not afford one. Will had a job now in the city, but Pamela still had not been chosen for employment. Every morning, Honor woke up drenched in sweat. Even the cold water in the bath was warm. Honor stopped dragging her feet on the way to the bus stop. She stepped up into the cool bus, eager to escape the stifling, salty air. School took all of Honor's time. Her parents were pleased that she was learning so much. She was studying geometry and graphing and statistics. She was weaving a long, narrow cloth of deepest purple and lavender. She observed tiny organisms under a microscope and drew their pictures in her lap book. In archery, she learned to shoot and string her bow. Her math skills were improving, although the maps she copied looked nothing like the world she used to know. School maps showed the north shaded deep pink by enclosure. In geography class, the northern islands were entirely safe and secure, with perfect new weather. Mrs. White showed the class pictures of emerald trees and lawns in cloudless skies. She showed films of flowers blossoming again and again in perfect sunlight. At first, Honor had trouble staying quiet when the class learned about the North. But as time went on, Honor's memory of rain and cold and sleet began to fade. The waterways and the great pine trees slipped from her mind. Her activities at school pushed the old days from her memory, and the films she saw on of the North began to replace the pictures in her mind. Only in dreams, fragments of her old home came back to her. In her dreams, the trees in the north were gold, the leaves tinged copper, and orange, scarlet. One day, Mrs. White said, "Honor, you lived in the north. Tell us about the leaves there." Then Honor thought Miss White was asking her to tell the class about how leaves change color. "Every year they turn red, green, red, yellow, brown," Honor told the class. Mrs. White shook her head and said, "Not anymore, not anymore, not by any means." Do trees change color, class?" "No," the class chorused. Some of the girls were covering their mouths with their hands. They were laughing at Honor for saying otherwise. "But you've never been to the Northern Islands," sputtered Honor. "How do you know the trees are always green?" "How do you know, class?" asked Mrs. White. For a long moment no one spoke. The girls seemed almost puzzled. Then Hildegard raised her hand and held up the climatology textbook. "It says in the book, trees in the Northern Islands are green all year round." Now Mrs. White smiled. She was not angry anymore. All the sunshine seemed to return to the room. "That is exactly right," she said. "We know what trees look like in the north from our book. This is known as doing the reading," she told Honor. "Those who do the reading need not exaggerate." "But I did see the," Honor began. "Search your memory," said Mrs. White. How strange. As soon as Mrs. White told Honor to search her memory, Honor's memory failed her. There stood Mrs. White, absolutely certain in front of her, and there sat the other girls, giggling and scoffing behind her. She could no longer remember seeing colorful leaves with her own eyes. She could only remember dreaming them. "Do you remember when the leaves changed?" Honor asked her parents that night as she lay down to sleep. "I think so," said her mother. "Do you remember the colors?" "I remember the leaves fell from the trees," said her father. But before they fell, did they turn colors? Her parents tried to remember, but they could not. They turned brown and died, her father said. I remember that. All three of them had trouble remembering the old life in the North. It was like forgetting a language they had once known. A few words remained, but they lost more and more each day. History lessons were difficult. Honor had to memorize the events of the peaceful revolution from her textbook. After the flood, disease, warfare, and famine decimated the human population. Then Earth Mother, the provider, rose up. She was a simple schoolteacher, a cookie baker. She loved flowers and children and sunshine and song. She believed in safety first. Her peaceful revolution was to protect and defend the islands that remained. Her program, to build seawalls in safe cities, to enclose the polar seas and establish new weather in the north with regulated temperatures all year round. The first glorious year of enclosure marked the securing of the Arctic Circle, the establishment of the new calendar, the new clock. Honor recited the words to herself in the bathtub as she soaked in tepid water. A new compact of... Are you all right in there? Asked Pamela outside the door. Oh, you made me lose my place. Honor sat up with a splash. I'm sorry, what did you say? Honor pulled the plug. She dried herself with a scratchy white towel and changed into her nightgown. I have to recite in history tomorrow, she told her mother when she opened the door. I need to practice. It's late, said Pamela. You need to go to bed. Please, I need to get this right, Honor begged, or I'll miss recess again. Is that what they do? They punish you for forgetting your recitation? Pamela looked shocked. They don't call it punishment, they call it thinking time, said Honor. What are you supposed to think? Asked Will, who was pinning up laundry to dry on a rack in the bedroom. You're supposed to think about correcting your inaccuracies, said Honor. Obviously. Don't take that tone of voice with me, said Will. Honor stayed up late and practiced her recitation. She sat up in her nightgown in the living room, and she stared at the ceiling lamp above her head as she recited, a new compact of nations, a new generation without... In the glass globe of the ceiling lamp, she saw a dead black spider with stiff folded legs. Next to it, a living spider tried to climb up inside the slippery globe to escape. The spider inched upward, only to fall back again, shrinking from the scorching heat of the light bulb. Again and again, the spider tried to climb, but each time he failed. Honor wanted to look away, but she could not. She needed to keep practicing, but she couldn't think about the recitation with that spider struggling above her head. Could you get him out? Could you unscrew the globe? She begged her father. He stood on a chair, and he could reach, but the globe was hot and screwed in tight. I'm afraid I'll break the glass if I try to force it loose, Will said. He's going to die in there, said Honor. Maybe if we turn off the light, he'll have a better chance, said Pamela. That's right. He'll make his escape in the dark, Will said. No, he won't. You're just saying that, said Honor. You just want me to go to bed. In the morning, Honor dressed for school and trudged downstairs, imagining the humiliation to come. It's not so bad, said Pamela encouragingly. Just remember, a new compact of nations, a generation without fear, a world of safety and order. Why don't you recite it yourself, then? Honor grumbled. She hated the hot morning. She hated the soggy cereal in her bowl. She tried to keep her head down and avoid looking at the light fixture. She didn't want to know, and yet she had to see. Just as she left the house, she looked. She saw that she and her father had both guessed wrong. The spider wasn't dead, and he had not escaped either. He was still struggling against the glass. All day, Honor sat at her desk, and wished she were home. Not home in the hot townhouse. Home in the north, in the strange wild places. Home where her parents paddled boats through marshy fields and the ruins of old buildings. Home where ducks nested in drowned fairgrounds. In her homesickness, a memory returned to her. She was sitting in a boat and trailing her hand in the water. Beneath the surface, she saw something glint and shine. She saw the head of a horse, adorned with gold and jewels. This was called a carousel, Will told Honor. Look at the mirrors, said Pamela, pointing at the spotted silver gleaming underwater. Children rode on these painted animals. See the lion and the white swan? I'm not sure what this one was called. What's this orange one? Will asked Pamela. Honor reached through the water to caress the mysterious painted creature with black and orange stripes. Water rippled over his long, sinewy body. She tried to touch his sparkling eye. Honor rarely dreamed now of the cool mornings in the north and scarlet trees. She could no longer picture the wild sky and its unpredictable colors, changeable and always new. The sky she saw now was only one color at a time, and those colors changed each hour, according to the clock. In the city, a golden yellow sky was pure yellow, without any other hue mixed in. When the sky was blue, it was sky blue, exactly like the crayon in the box. As the clock on the wall ticked away, Honor sensed her classmates waiting too. They loved to hear Honor lose her place in recitations. The other girls lived on high ground in the city, in tall apartment buildings waves could never touch. They lived in villas in the mountains with flowering gardens and turquoise sprinkler pools. Honor saw these places as she rode the bus. The other girls visited each other after school, but they would never visit her. Did you know? They whispered to one another. She lives by the shore. The girls were always polite to her in class when Mrs. White was looking, because politeness was the rule. But they taunted Honor the minute the teacher's back was turned. Shore bird, they chanted softly. The moment came. The whole class waited as Honor stood trembling by the board. Take your time, said Mrs. White. After the flood, disease, warfare, and famine. Use your whole voice, said Mrs. White. Decimated the human population. Then Earth Mother, the provider, rose up. She was a simple school teacher, a cookie baker. She loved flowers and children and sunshine and song. She believed in... Honor looked out at her classmates in their identical school uniforms. Everyone sat perfectly, heads up, back straight. Everyone held still, except that, in the second row, Hester was slowly crossing her eyes. Honor looked away quickly, but she'd lost her place. She believed in... All she could think was that Hester's dark eyes were drawing closer and closer together. Believed in what? Mrs. White asked. Honor had no idea. Search your memory, said Mrs. White. Honor hung her head. When she looked up, Hester was smiling at her again. Her eyes were in the right places. Honor, said Mrs. White. Once again, you are unprepared. But are you contradicting me? Asked Mrs. White. No, said Honor. You need a simpler text, said Mrs. White. Can you read this? She handed Honor a card with just a few lines printed on it. Can you remember this? Honor nodded. Recite it with your whole voice. No, Honor thought when she saw the nursery rhyme. Please don't make me. Let's hear it, snapped Miss White. Ladybug, fly away home, Honor recited. The earth is on fire. Your children will burn. And the next one, Mrs. White handed Honor another card. Honor took a breath. Atmosphere is falling down, falling down, falling down. I believe this is a song, Mrs. White reminded her. Atmosphere is falling down, my fair lady, Honor sang haltingly. Then her classmates could not cover their giggles any longer. Their laughter rang through the classroom. Take the sky and close it up, close it up, close it up. Take the sky and close it up, my fair lady, sang Honor. The other girls put their heads down on their desks and laughed until they cried. And Mrs. White let them laugh. She did not say a word, but let the laughter come until Honor's cheeks burned. At recess, Honor wandered alone. The whole lower school had recess together on the lower playground, while the teachers sat and talked at picnic tables in the shade. Honor's classmates gossiped, whispering to each other as they walked in pairs. She stayed as far away from them as possible. She stood by the playground fence and stared at the orderlies pruning bushes on the other side. The orderlies wore white jumpsuits and hats on their bald heads. They looked neither happy nor sad, because they had no eyebrows. "Hello," she said through the fence. The orderlies didn't even glance at her. "My name is Honor," she said, and then asked the nearer orderly, "What's your name?" Out of nowhere, Mrs. White was upon her, taking her by the hand and hurrying her away. "Too close, too close!" "Why?" Honor asked. Mrs. White was fuming, muttering, 10 years old and speaking to the... Haven't your parents told you never talk to orderlies? Honor shook her head. We didn't have orderlies where we lived. It's as if you've been raised by wolves, exclaimed Mrs. White. I just wanted to know their names, said Honor. Mrs. White turned to her. They don't have names. Run along, find an activity. Honor stood at the edge of the field and watched the boys running and kicking an orange ball. Her parents had never told her to stay away from orderlies, only not to stare. She wandered over to a dusty place under the trees. 2 girls swung a rope, and the rest took turns jumping in. The first chanted as she jumped, "Hey, my name is Alice, and I am an engineer. My husband's name is Abner, and we bring back aluminum." Then she jumped out, and the next girl jumped in, chanting, "B, my name is Brody, and I am an engineer. My husband's name is Berthold, and we bring back beryllium." They kept going as far as they could through the alphabet. Honor didn't ask to play. If you forgot an element, the game had to start all over again, and the girls got annoyed. She walked to the empty sandbox. The girls never went there. They were all afraid of sand, because they thought it came from the shore. Honor had seen her classmates shudder as they walked past, especially if some sand had drifted onto the grass. "Ooh, don't go near the sand. It's filthy. It's got bugs. It's got fleas. You'll get sand in your pants." Honor sat on the wooden edge of the sandbox. She began to trail her fingers in the smooth white sand. She scooped the sand up in her hands and let it fall away again. "There's no bottom," said a boy, standing at the edge. It was Helix Thompson, a kid with long blonde hair that always fell in his eyes. His eyes were either dark brown or black. His hair was always falling over his face, so it was hard to tell. Helix stepped into the sandbox. He dangled a magnet from a string over the surface of the sand. "This is a metal detector," Helix said. "What are you detecting?" Honor asked wearily. "Anything with iron, screws, nails, ancient tools," said Helix. "I scan the surface with my magnet. Then I sift the sand through my fingers." "Let me see." They bent over the magnet together. "If you had a magnet like this, you could make a metal detector," Helix said. "How many points are they?" Honor asked. "I don't know. Why? Are you poor?" Helix asked with sudden interest. Honor hesitated. Then she said, "Yes, I'm poor and I live by the shore." "Are you a refugee?" asked Helix. Honor wasn't sure what a refugee was, but she was too proud to let on. Maybe, she said. I hate school, she whispered. You don't have to be a refugee to hate school, said Helix. The next day at recess, Helix was looking for Honor. He dug into his pocket and took out a big magnet tied to a piece of string. This one's for you, he said. Together they walked across the playground, trying to detect scrap metal. Honor found a rusty nail. Beginner's luck, said Helix, and they kept walking. Your father works for my father, Helix said. They work in the same building. The Central Computer Building? Helix nodded. What island are you from? I don't think it had a number. You came from a numberless island? Helix was fascinated. Honor nodded. In the north. But nobody can live on a numberless island. You were evacuated, weren't you? Yes, said Honor. What was it like? How did they find you? Did retrievers come for you? Honor didn't answer. Why were your parents sent here? The same reason everyone else is, snapped Honor. The colonies were the only islands with official numbers. They were the only islands where the corporation permitted people to live. But why to this island? For work, Honor said. Helix looked at her skeptically. They were standing under a tree, but even in the shade, the sun beat down on their shoulders. Their hair was wet with sweat under their sun hats. If they were sent for work, Helix said, then why hasn't your mother been chosen for employment? When are you going to get a job? Honor asked her mother that night. She was sitting on the kitchen counter, and her parents were cooking chicken and rice in a pot. Pamela didn't answer. Everyone else has a job, said Honor. Pamela looked at Will. Then she said, sometimes the corporation has too many engineers in one place. They wouldn't send you here if there were too many engineers on the island already, Honor pointed out. Don't you want to find work? Of course I do, Pamela said. If you get a job, we could move. We could afford to live on higher ground. Yes, I realize that, said Pamela. I want a job very much. I have gone to the city every day and applied at every office. Then why won't they give you one? Well, in my case, Pamela said, it's because we're going to have a baby. Honor stared at her parents in horror. You're going to have a brother or a sister, said Will. Honor gasped. Brother and sister were swear words. We're having the baby in month 7, said Pamela. How? Honor demanded. She was dumbfounded. A mother, a father, and a child made a family. Families came in 3s. She had never heard of a family of 4. The baby will be interesting, said her mother, and it will grow and go to school like you. No one at school has babies at home, Honor said. For just a second, her father looked angry. What do you care? We aren't like other people, said her mother. Who are we like then? Honor asked, and her parents laughed. Then Honor ran out the back door to the rocky place where her father had planted bananas, and she crouched down under the broad green leaves and cried. Her father came out after her, but she pushed him away. She kept crying until her mother bent down and whispered that she had to come inside. If she kept making so much noise, the neighborhood watch was sure to hear. She went inside and dried her tears. She sat silently at dinner. I'm sorry we laughed, her father said. A baby is wonderful, said Pamela. You'll see. We'll find a better house. We aren't going to live here forever, you know, her father said. Her parents didn't understand. After the baby, her family would never fit in. Other families were 3, and hers would be 4. Other families were the right number, and hers would be too big. Honor decided that she wouldn't tell anyone at school about the baby, not even Helix. But he surprised her. They were standing on a picnic table and taking turns jumping off. They laid sticks down on the ground to measure how far they jumped. Honor was poised to jump off the table when Helix said, "I heard my father say your mother is going to have a baby." Honor had been so close to jumping that she lost her balance and fell in a heap of dirt. "Now look what you made me do." "Sorry," said Helix, and he climbed onto the table for his turn. She scrambled back up. "No, it's still my turn. That doesn't count." "Is it true?" "Shh. It's a secret. Don't tell anyone." "Why?" From her perch on the table, Honor watched as Helena, Hortense, and Hiroko strolled past. "Because I have enough trouble already. I live by the shore. No one will come to my house." "You can come to our house," said Helix. Honor thought he was just feeling sorry for her. "I don't want to," she said. "Yes, you do." "No, I don't." "We have a sprinkler pool." "I'll ask my parents," Honor said. Honor could keep the baby a secret at school, but at the townhouses, everyone noticed that Pamela was getting bigger. Honor was glad that none of the neighbor children went to the old colony school. Sometimes before dinner, she played with the girls from the other townhouses. They were children of the island's first people, girls with tan skin and brown eyes. Their names were Felicia, Gina, and Hattie. Honor envied their smooth black hair. There were basketball hoops in the paved lot in front of the townhouses. Honor and the other girls played basketball, and a group of boys kicked a soccer ball. They played a wild game called Forecaster, where one boy pelted the others with a ball. The game was not allowed because the word forecaster was unacceptable. Whenever the boys got caught by the neighborhood watch, they had to rake and sweep and break down boxes for recycling. "Do you know what they are saying when you use the word forecaster?" Mr. Pratt demanded once. "The forecaster is a madman. He'd drown you as soon as look at you. He worships old weather. He thinks the world was better off before, and all he wants is for you to disobey. Take these brooms and sweep the steps." He gestured to the cement stairs from the empty lot to the townhouses. The boys hung their heads and accepted their punishment. But after some weeks had passed, they played forecaster again. The girls could hear them using the F word as they slammed the ball into each other. "I'm going to forecast you." At a safe distance, a cluster of little girls jumped rope. If the little girls found a bit of chalk, they'd draw hopscotch squares on the asphalt. They'd play clapping games, chanting, "Miss Mary Mac, 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 all dressed in black, 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 with silver buttons, 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 all down her back, back, back. She asked her mother, 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 for 50 cents, 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 to see an elephant, 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 jump the fence, fence, fence. He jumped so high, 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 he reached the sky, 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 and didn't come back, 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 till the 4th of July, lie, lie." The girls had seen pictures of the elephants that had once roamed the wild grasslands, but no one knew exactly what July had been on the old calendar. The older girls argued about it. Hattie thought July had been a summer month at the end of the year, but Honor was sure July had been a winter month. Why else would Miss Mary be buttoned up in the back? She must have been cold. Honor imagined cool breezes way up in the July sky. What a beautiful word. She wished the impossible, that her parents could name the baby July.
Normally, it would be a good thing that your mother's having a baby. But in this case, apparently, you're only supposed to have one child per family, so it's a very bad thing to have another. Seems like her family does a lot of things they're not supposed to do. That may be a theme throughout the book. Poor Honor. They're all so mean to her. Even the teacher. Better be grateful your teacher's nice. Made her recite the little nursery rhyme. Did you notice how disturbing the nursery rhymes were? I want you to do is go back and look at a couple of the nursery rhymes that they talked about in the chapter, or the songs that they sang. Pick one, write it down, then explain what is so creepy about it. What warning are they giving? And if you feel so inclined, make up your own. That would be a good one to use in this time period about warning of the weather and the sea. Give us some great illustrations as well.